Right, so welcome back to the Unstoppable podcast. I am not on my own today, so I'm not chatting shit to you, just as always, but I'm actually joined by Lewis, who has been a mentor of mine, also helped me become a better coach, and just an overall mindset geek like myself as well. So welcome, Lewis, first and foremost.
I'm very impressed by the setup. I'm looking around like, this is a bit better than my box room on Zoom.
We don't do anything by halves, do we? Let's be honest.
Mate, it's sick. It's sick. But no, thank you for having me.
No, it's all right.
The lovely little intro as well.
With that, who are you? Who are you?
Fucking hell, here we go. Straight in. Wait, we're good to swear.
We're going balls deep straight away.
Oh yeah, we're good to swear.
Yeah.
Sound. Who am I? That's a really interesting question. Do you want me to? Yeah, so I've been many different people, right? Lived many different lives. I know that's like cliche and cheesy as fuck, but I've been through quite a rocky journey, let's say, from my younger years to then some stuff that happened with my heart, which I'm sure we're going to come on to. And hence the ticking. If anybody can hear any ticking, I do apologise. It's my heart quite literally ticking every time it beats. So if that's annoying, I'm sorry. But also it kind of keeps me alive. So fuck you. And then obviously went into coaching, and then now coach coaches, or should I say teach coaches how to coach mindset properly. Actually properly, not just regurgitating personal development books and podcasts.
No.
So yeah, that's what I do, but it's not who I am. Who I am is a hard question to answer. It's
difficult question, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like you skirted around that a little bit.
Well,
who actually are, right, okay, we'll go from where we was. Who was we?
Right, okay, yeah, good. So I spent the majority of my adult life, so from being 16 years old, I played American football. Mm-hmm. At 18 years old, I also started DJing. So those two things were like my life, if you will. I went to uni and did all that sort of stuff, but I'll be honest, I went to uni, I got in through clearing, went to Manchester. Basically, a mate of mine came to, I had no intention of going to uni. One of my friends came to uni in Manchester, and I came here for her freshers, and I went home after freshers. I was like, Mum, I'm going to uni. So I moved to Manchester, carried on DJing, carried on playing American football, all that sort of stuff. I was also pretty much my entire adult life, like morbidly obese, reaching 152 kilos at my heaviest. And it was just tied into like my identity. I was there with my sport, with American football. It helped with who I was on nights out, the big guy, the guy that if it kicked off, it was like, yeah, sound, let's go, like that sort of stuff. And I spent that 12, 13 years as that person. I got some interesting stories from that time, but also like not the best thing for my health, as I found out in 2018 it was.
I find it very inspiring, like your bit of story where you was basically told you had to stop everything, mm-hmm. But you had to stop everything to obviously save your own life.
Pretty much.
What was that like?
So the context around it is basically when I was living in Australia. I've been in Australia just under a couple of years. I went over for a holiday on a working tourist visa, working holiday, whatever, I can't remember what the visa was called. And then when I was there, I didn't really know where I wanted to settle. And then I got to Melbourne and I found this American football team, or should I say, I was put in touch with an American football team. They were put in touch with me via a friend of mine that had played for them previously. Mm. So then as soon as I got involved with that team, I was like, right, this is it. I'm staying here. This is what I'm doing. They were incredible. The best team in the country at the time. I was training for state. I'd been selected to play for state, which was pretty cool. Doing the whole flying around the country, playing games and like living that athlete life. I woke up one morning and I tried to say something to my partner at the time, and all the words came out jumbled up in the wrong order.
Which wasn't making sense.
Just fucking mad, right? And I was like, well, that's weird. And I tried to say the same sentence again, and the words all came out in a different order, but still not the right order. And straight away she was like, right, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Hospital, let's go. So went in and had a load of different tests, and I didn't really know at the time. It was very much rushed through. They have this thing in Australia called Medicare, where if you're a British citizen, or it was at the time, I don't know what the rules are now, you got reciprocal healthcare. So you had to like pay for bits of it, but it wasn't fully. You didn't have to pay for the entire thing, which was
a blessing.
Yeah, because I ended up having 6 different tests, like CT scans, EEGs, ECGs, MRIs, the whole lot. they found that I'd got BAVD, which is bicuspid aortic valve disease. And it's something that I've been born with. So it actually wasn't anything to do with my lifestyle and being overweight and
Just
playing intense
heightened
sport and drinking and partying and everything that comes with it. But it had obviously not helped. So it's something that I've been born with. And the guidance over there at the time, because I was playing high level sport, the doctor at the time called me the fittest fat guy that he'd ever seen, which was, mate, at the time I was like sick, like sound,
Crack on.
yeah, buzzing, literally. And he said, "You'll be fine. Like, don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're all good." And I was like, right, sweet. So I did. But like, obviously, I took his word as gospel, A, because he's a medical professional, but they checked everything, like my arteries, obviously my blood pressure, all the standard tests that you get. I was functioning perfectly fine, apart from I got this valve that wasn't doing its job properly. The way that he'd kind of brushed it off, I knew it was obviously serious, but the fact that he'd said, "Don't worry about it, crack on," I did. So then I moved back to England in 2018, and I had to go through the NHS to basically alert them of what had happened. But rather than them just taking their word as gospel, I had to go through all the same tests again, which took nearly 13 months, I think it ended up being, so just over a year. In that time, I'd carried on playing. I'd got back to England. I'd carry on partying. I'd put even more weight on. Obviously, I've seen a load of friends that I've not seen in 2.5 years. I'm drinking. I'm partying, like everything that came with it. And then in November 2019, got a phone call in the morning, and I remember being like, right, I recognise the hospital's number. I'm on fucking speed dial. And it was a phone call basically saying, "Look, you need to come in." And I was like, right. So straight away, I'm like, this is not good.
Something's not right.
Because normally they send letters, and it's just like back and forth, and I hear from them. It was every 3 months I was having to have an MRI, which is mad. Have you ever had a full, like,
No.
It's the one where you're like strapped in and it puts you in. It's
Yeah.
fucking mad. In there for like 45 minutes at a time. And they'd pulled me in and basically said, like, "You've got to stop everything. You're borderline intervention."
Right.
So I was like, "In English, please."
What does that
And he was like,
mean?
basically, if it gets any worse, it's emergency surgery or clocking out, good night, game over, you're done. So I was
Fuck
like,
me.
sound. And it was at the end of the season. I was still training pretty hard. I'd started this whole weight loss journey. People think that the reason that I shifted all the weight was because of the heart. It wasn't. I'd just decided that I wanted to do that anyway. So yeah, basically overnight, everything gone. And it was fucking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, 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 really tough. I think at the time, like I did the whole victim thing. Like, this is not fair. Like, why me? I thought it was all right.
I think it's so easy though, when you're told everything has to stop. Everything that you've always ever known.
Yeah.
It's like, why me?
Yeah.
Like, why me now?
This is where my journey into the mindset side of things. Well, it was a few months later, but this is the thing this was the catalyst for me to start taking it seriously myself. Like at this time, I'd only just got into fitness industry, so I'd only just started coaching.
Yeah.
It's not as if I'd always been in shape. I was maybe 30. Let me think, 150. Yeah, maybe 30 kilos down at the time, so I was well on my way. But this whole mindset, I had no idea about it. I'd heard it mentioned, podcasts and stuff like that, but I was like...
It's like a flimsy word, isn't it, that people throw about.
It's such a... Yeah, it is. It's a buzzword, but there isn't a better word
To describe
it, because it's one of those words, kind of like the word identity, that you don't know what it means and you do know what it means. Like, it could mean anything, but you know what it means. So all these like mindset coaches and geeks and stuff, I'm like, I get it. It's just the easiest word to describe it. So yeah, it was rough. It was really rough. I don't think it really sank in at first, because it was the end of the season anyway. I would have had 5 months before the next time I was meant to be playing or training American football.
Yeah.
So I had that kind of time to like let it sink in. I think it really started. It was around Christmas that I was like, "Oh right, shit, yeah.
Something needs to.
This is not great. This is like, you need to sort yourself out." I'd basically plateaued with my weight loss, which again, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'd not banged the load back on, but I'd gone from feeling like I could do all of this shit, it's easy, like I'm enjoying the exercise, I'm doing all that sort of stuff, to nothing, like absolutely nothing. So yeah, it was tough, really tough.
No, I get that. And like, what shocked me was your recovery, how fast you recovered because your mindset had completely altered.
Yeah.
Like, for people who are watching and listening, like, how fast was that recovery?
So basically the surgery, again, it was open heart surgery, meaning that they were gonna obviously put me to sleep. Sternum was gonna be fully cracked open and stuff like that. They put me on a bypass machine, did what they needed to do, woke me up. There was some sort of minor issue with the anaesthetic during, so it should have taken 4.5 hours. I ended up being under for like nearly 9, which meant that when I came out, I was mega light. They'd obviously had to pump me full of all sorts of stuff. The recovery, the guidelines that I was given, I met my surgeon maybe 3 times before, because it was actually from them saying you've got to stop everything to me having the surgery was a 2-year process, because I'd lost all the weight. I'd got down into quite literally like photo shoot shape, which people attach to health was the unhealthiest I'd ever been.
Yeah, no,
but
I agree.
No fat and all that sort of stuff. And the hospital were okay with it, because my the aneurysm which had developed in the heart, so it wasn't actually the valve that was going to kill me, it was the aneurysm. So every time my heart was beating, it was letting more blood back into the heart than it was pumping out, and it was stretching the wall of the heart. So it was because I'd sorted all that sort of stuff out, the aneurysm had stopped, they call it progressing, which to me is the weirdest fucking word to describe something that if it keeps progressing, it will rupture and you'll die. So I was like, sound. So it stopped. So they were like, oh, you're good. You obviously I've not reversed it, I've not cured anything, but it's not getting worse. We'll keep monitoring you every 6 months. You might need the surgery when you're like 65. I was like, what? Like, not a chance. So I'd been back and forth with them for like 2 years. So I'd met my surgeons, I'd met different cardiologists, I'd met different nurses that were in charge of the recovery, because I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know absolutely every single gory detail. And when we had the chat about the recovery, I picked up on something in the language, and it was like, well, it will take you up to a week on CTCCU, which is cardiothoracic critical care. So 2 to 1 bed watch, then up to a week on another wing, C, whatever it is, C2, I think the wing is in Wythenshawe Hospital. And then up to 3 months, basically, where you can't do fuck all afterwards. Because of Rogue, because I've got a big dog, I knew that I was going to have to move back to my parents. So in my head, I'd prepared for this, a week in critical care, a week in the normal wing ward, and then having to move back to my parents for possibly 3 months. The nurses, obviously, I don't know if they give you the worst case scenario on possible on purpose, but it was like, there's a chance like you'll have to have help showering. You might not be able to, we were joking about it, but then one of them was like, oh no, seriously, like you might not be able to like wipe your own arse and stuff like that. And I was thinking like up to, like it normally takes up to, and I'm like, what? Like
you had that gap in between.
It wasn't, it will take you this long. If somebody had said it will take you this long, and they forced that belief on me, then who knows? But I remember talking to them, and then when I started having more conversations with them, they were like, oh yeah, but the average person that has this done is like 65 to 70 years old. They're not as, obviously I've got age on my side. I'm fairly healthy, quote unquote, aside of this thing that was obviously going on with my heart. And I was just like, yeah, not a chance. And I remember speaking to Paul about it, my mentor, my coach, a couple of times, and being like, this is what they've said. Like I've done all this research, I've done all this reading, I've done all this learning, I've done all this implementing, I've come all this way, and like I don't know what to do now. And he set me the challenge of basically the day, as soon as I could after the surgery, created a list of 20 reasons that I was grateful for the surgery. And I was like, fuck off. Like,
not doing that
not
shit.
a chance. Don't be daft. Like, you're mad. And I did. That's not the reason why I recovered quickly, but basically this thing that should have taken up to a week on critical care, up to a week on a normal wing, up to 3 months bedbound, I walked out of hospital 4 days later.
Fucking
Like,
mad that.
And I made a point because they wanted to push me in a wheelchair, and I'm like, no.
I'm walking
out of hospital. And I couldn't carry my bags or anything. You can't lift anything heavier than like a cup of tea for the first 2 weeks. So it was tough. I talk about this a lot, and I don't ever want to come across like, oh, fucking hell, like big macho man, because it was hard, but nowhere near as hard as the picture that they painted. And I don't know if that's because I'd mentally prepared or I saw it as a challenge or what. I don't know.
Do you think it's because you had a bit of a fear as well? Like you were scared of that happening, the worst happening. So you pushed yourself further to then not actually fall into that category of average.
Do
you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. There was no fear. It was very much I'll show you.
Yeah.
It was very much, I've always been competitive my entire life.
Sport.
It comes from my dad. My dad played sport to a high level, played American football. And then when he stopped playing American football, and during playing everything, right? Fucking badminton, table tennis, like the lot. My dad's just this
athlete.
Mad. It's absolutely mad. And then he got into golf and he took that, and then into fishing. He's the angriest fisherman I've ever, like, he don't fish anymore.
Competitive fisherman.
Innit? Yeah, no, but it's like legit serious, takes everything dead serious, and that rubbed off on me massively in a big way. I played rugby when I was younger, then American football. I've tried my hand at other sports. So I think it's more that I wasn't scared of being average.
Yeah.
Not that I know of, maybe on some other level that I didn't realise, but it was, just you watch.
You've got to be the best.
You fucking show me. Like,
yeah, and prove everyone wrong.
And what it was is basically after I'd found out about it the first time and I'd realised that I'd slipped into this victim mode, I say now, the worst thing you could ever call me is a victim. Ever.
I think to anyone.
Yeah.
But
I don't think to anyone, because some people like it, some people use it as a fallback, some people like the justification.
We have just had this conversation with Katie, and she, like, I've got the argument of like some people are too far gone to come out a victim, but then there's the other side. Is like if they want it, they can get out of it.
Well, it's the difference is, right. It's nobody would like to be called a victim, but the difference between you getting upset when somebody calls you a victim and your actions aligning with somebody that's not a victim are completely different.
I agree. Yeah.
So you might not like being called a victim, but you then having to do the things that would make you not a victim. You then realise that your excuses are gone, your justifications are gone. You've actually got to do the hard shit, whether it is internal work, whether it is on your health, on your fitness, whatever it is. So, yeah, you can get pissed off at calling a victim, but if your actions don't align with it, then you are, whether you like it or not, regardless of what the label is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the worst thing you could call me is a victim, and I think it was that. I think that was it. It was like, I'm doing this the entire time, and I spoke to my dad about it during the process. I only really broke down, like crying badly twice. And once was on the way back from the hospital when they'd finally agreed to let me have the surgery. Because they were like, oh, well, there's a risk of death, there's this, there's that, you don't need it.
It's just emotions going through you, isn't it, really?
That was the first time that I was like, holy shit, this is like...
Serious.
Yeah. It was relief and there was fear at that point. And then again, I'd met my surgeon again a couple of times and the fear kind of like dissipated. And then the second time was when I got the phone call, because basically it was, you're on the list, we'll agree to do it, but you're not high priority. You're not at risk at the minute. Fucking COVID was running wild, so it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So they rang me on it was like a Friday and was like, do you want they rang me on a Monday and was like, do you want the surgery on the Thursday or whatever, 2 days notice? And I was like, yeah, sound. And during those 2 days were horrible because I had to like shield. My mum and dad had to come and pick the dog up because obviously we wouldn't have been able to walk him or anything like that. During the process, I've met my surgeon and I think he's definitely on the spectrum somewhere, and that's why I liked him. He was so matter-of-fact about everything. And all the minute details, he understood why I wanted to know, and I just felt really comfortable with him. And I said to him during the process, I was like, what happens, just out of interest, if on the day of the surgery you wake up and you're having an off day? And he just looked at me deadpan, I was like, that never happens. And I was like, right.
Is that confidence?
And he went, but if it does, I won't do the surgery. I'm like, right, sound. So I should have been getting admitted to hospital on, let's say, the Thursday. Got a phone call on the way to hospital, bags packed and everything. Mr. Waterworth's not feeling too well today. We're going to have to push it back. Can you come back in like 3 days? You're going to have to continue shielding. I was like, holy fuck. Like,
he means business.
Yeah. So then the second set of shielding, I was fine. Like the first 2 days or 3 days that I had, I was like literally laying on the floor crying. And then the second time I was like, nah, it is what it is. Like, we'll just get this done.
Yeah.
It's just something that I've got to do.
I think it's such like it is a mindset shift with everything like you've got to have, and it's like you could have took that like it's not meant to be, something's going to happen to me, I'm not having this surgery, like
stars aren't
stars
aligned.
aligning, the universe isn't here for me.
Fuck off.
I mean, that would be me, I'm not gonna lie. That would be me. I'd be like, that is my sign, I'm not having it done. Like, I'm a firm believer in that stuff, and you know I am.
Mate, come on.
But,
you're better than that, Leah.
But if there's other signs, like I see my numbers, my 444s.
Don't start. We're done.
No, but like I'm a firm believer in signs and stuff, and it's like I think your sign for that was the fact that you needed that sign that you could trust him.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So I think that was your sign that this is going to be okay because you could trust him without you even realising at that time. Now, I think we're like people listening and stuff, they're probably thinking, fucking hell, who is this crackpot on this couch?
What, you or me?
Both of us probably. Who is this crackpot on this couch? Like coming out of surgery 4 days after walking, like not back to full health, but like kind of just built that. It's resilience at the end of the day.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
And it's like, what would you say to someone who's wanting to build that resilience, who doesn't think that they have it or potentially could have that?
Yeah.
What would you kind of suggest and tell someone and guide them into? Because I know this is your like favourite thing. He's laughing because I know what he's going to say.
You're baiting me here.
I know what
You're baiting me. I don't have to like do this direct to the camera as well.
Do
you know what? Do it direct to the camera. What choice have you fucking got?
Yeah.
like you can choose. This is the thing that people don't realise. And I, when I started to become this mindset geek, as you called me earlier, and it started to like flow through my coaching, most of my clients loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. A few clients left. Because when I started to have these shifts and I learned about coaching, it stopped me from telling people these things. And I started actually coaching and asking them the hard questions, which they didn't want to answer.
God, I've had the hard questions.
You've had the hard questions
FYI.
a few times. You've had the hard questions a few times. But asking them the hard questions and leading them to their own realizations, which they didn't like. And for me, genuinely, if you've got something like this, everything in life, and this is the bit that people don't like, and this is the bit that piss people off, and this is the bit that will either empower some listeners, watchers, whatever, or it'll trigger them. Everything in your life is a choice.
I agree.
Whether you like it or not. It's not easy to admit that. And sometimes the choices aren't, there's not always a good choice and a bad choice, quote unquote, but there are choices.
Even if things, and I'm just thinking of like my childhood and stuff, like that wasn't my choice to be brought, like it weren't my choice to have them sort of parents like that. I was just brought into the world with that, but I did have a choice on how I could navigate the rest of my life from that.
Yeah, so what you've mentioned there, and you'll see me speak about it, you'll see loads of people speak about it. There is a difference between fault and responsibility. Things aren't your fault. Somebody spoke about it on a podcast ages ago, and the analogy that I always remember is if somebody dumps a baby in a basket on your doorstep, knocks on the door and fucking runs away, it's not your fault. Well, maybe it's your fault, it's your baby. But a random baby, right? It's not your fault, but it's very, very much your responsibility to do something about that.
Yeah. So
things aren't people's fault. Their upbringings aren't the fault. You can't choose where you're born into what set of circumstances to what set of parents.
You can change it though.
You can. And people don't like it. And again, I'm not saying it's a hard choice, and we'll use that example because that's a really hard example. If you don't like your family and they are negative and they drag you down and they don't support you, you don't have to have a relationship with them. And I know that sounds really harsh.
I think it's so harsh.
It is, but that harsh example is the thing that people remember.
Yeah.
So, but the follow-on from this idea about choice is if you choose something, you choose everything that comes with it. You can't just choose. So if you choose not to face up to whatever you've got to deal with,
you've got to deal with that consequence.
Exactly that. And it's this whole, again, you'll hear people say it all the time, like you get to choose your suffering, right? So different analogy now back to me with my fat loss. I had to choose not being able to tie my lace properly and not being able to see my fucking dick when I stood up, right? That sort of suffering, being unfit, out of breath, walking upstairs, feeling uncomfortable all the time, struggling, only being able to buy clothes from Giacomo. One version of suffering. The thing that I was avoiding was dieting and exercise and not being able to drink 20 pints every single time that I go out and all of that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Choose between those two, right? But if I don't want to put up with this, you don't get to choose this bit as well. You have to choose something different. So it's, for me, if you're going through something, the first thing is realising whether you need to work with a coach to get to the bottom of this, or you sit down and write it out and just look at it factually, objectively, realise that you have a choice. And by not choosing to deal with it, you're choosing to remain...
Victim.
I was going to say pussy. But...
I'm going to say, well, you say that.
Nah, we'll go victim. Can we cut that bit out? No, I'm kidding. But if you're shying away from things,
yeah,
then you're choosing to deal with the suffering and everything that comes with it. That
and we've had these conversations before. Like, I cannot comprehend how, like, me and you both know anyone can reach their maximum potential. Like, they can genuinely be whatever they want to be, turn their life around. Like, me and you've quite clearly proven that. And what I cannot comprehend is how people aren't like us, who don't have the like. And we've had these conversations time and time again. Like, me and you, hard questions have come up, but it's like, it is frustrating and quite annoying for me.
Yeah.
The fact that you've got all of the tools there, why are you not using them?
So I've got the empathy with this because I was that person for a long time. Like, I always forget how young you are. So you've got this default mode for whatever reason. I had, let's say, became a conscious adult at, like, I don't know, 16 years old, and that's arguable, to be fair. But like 12 years of living like that, of being, not wanting to deal with things, kind of trying to deal with things, but half-arsing it and not really committing to it. So I think it's this whole, like, compounding effect of, first of all, you don't know what somebody's upbringing has been like, right? So if you encounter somebody and the first hard, quote unquote, thing they're faced with in their life, if that's the first hard thing they've ever faced in their life, that subjectively to them will be the hardest thing that they've ever faced in their life.
Yeah.
For someone like you that's had to deal with your family situation and losing close family members, which again, I can't imagine having to go through that. You've been through, objectively, significant levels of shit, right? And you've had to deal with it. I've also been through objective levels of shit. Okay, so now what seems hard to somebody else is hard to them, but maybe not to me, or maybe not to you. So I get what you mean, and sometimes I do look at people and be like, it's not that difficult, and then I'm like, oh, but to them, it could be. So every time you go through that hard thing, what you are able to endure, like this whole idea of resilience, is there's a word that I really love, and we used to use it at American football. It's bounce back ability, right? Yeah. And it's your ability to bend and not break. So to deal with whatever it is, resilience is not alphaing through everything that goes on in your life. It's how quickly can you deal with and come back from that thing.
Yeah.
And you can't have resilience without the hard things in the first place.
No.
You can't have resilience. You can't avoid adversity and making these difficult decisions and doing this shit and be resilient.
No.
Like, you hear the whole, you can't have courage without fear. Same sort of relationship between the two. So you've been through your fair level of shit, but if somebody's not been, they don't have that resilience. So I do get it, and I try not to judge. I really do. I try to have empathy for everybody in every situation, because you don't know what they're going through, but sometimes I'm like, come on, mate.
Do you know what, though? It's like, even the people who have been through shit, like, I know, like, I've coached people who've been through plenty of shit, and people going through shit right now. I know people, you probably know people as well, and it's like, what do you think has to have that change in that switch for you to then bounce back better?
That's a really interesting question.
Do you know what I mean? Because everyone has got the ability to change that. But what is that, like, what's that disconnect that people have got that you think would help any someone listening right now could be going through something? What's that bounce back ability for, like, it could obviously in any way, shape or form, but what is that, like, little shift that they need? I
think it's acceptance. I think it's acceptance that it's your responsibility to deal with. So when I mentioned some people get triggered by that, some people get empowered by that. The reason that some people get empowered by that is because when you accept that it is your responsibility. Maybe it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility and you have to do something about this.
Yeah.
And you maybe accept that you are in this shit situation because of your choices and because of your actions and your behavior patterns, whatever. By default, and this is the people kind of like end the thought there. By default, if you accept that, you are also accepting that you now have the power to do something about it. If you accept that you are in the shit situation because of you, by default, you have to now know, you have to now accept that you can do something about it. Because if you landed yourself here through months and years of your past decisions and behaviors, you can change those things. And yes, it's not going to help you right now. Yes, it's probably not going to help you tomorrow. But in another 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 3 years, whatever, if you start aligning your behaviors and your decisions and your choices with the person that you want to be, soon, not now, but soon you'll be there. So I think for me, it's acceptance. It's like you hear this rock bottom thing, and I listened to a podcast recently. I've been avoiding Bartlett's podcast because of the caliber of guests. It's just not for me anymore. But yeah, Jocko Willink on this week, I think, and it was really, really interesting because I like him. He's a bit like alpha, macho, ex-Navy SEAL and all that sort of stuff. But he talked about this concept of rock bottom, and he thinks, and he worded it, and I can't agree more because I had my rock bottom moment twice. It's the realization that all your excuses have gone away.
Yeah, there's no
more excuses. And for me, that's what it was. It was, I've now got to do something about this. Like, nobody's coming to save me. And I'm not even talking about the heart stuff here. I'm going back to when I realised that I needed to sort my shit out with losing the weight and getting healthy. And
taking ownership, isn't it?
Literally. Yeah. And for me, it was fueled on a cocktail or all sorts of substances in a field at Parklife. But I had that realisation, and it was literally like, I say it all the time, it was like 1 second I was fine. Literally, the next second I wasn't. And I was like, right, okay, shit, let's do something about this then.
Yeah.
And I realised that that's not the case for everybody. So in that sense, maybe I am lucky. But again, is it luck or is it to do with who I am and how I take challenge on? And I don't know.
Do you know what as well? Like, I find it dead interesting. Like, I think everyone has to go through a rock bottom moment. I do think they've got to go through that. Now, this is just like a bit of me, but like, for me, because of obviously the shit I have been through, I don't feel like I've had a rock bottom. Do you know what I mean?
Are you on crack?
I don't think I've had like a rock, do you know, like, I mean, I have, but not to the point where it's like, I've automatically just done it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do get it.
So it's like, for someone like me, I'm like, am I still expecting that to happen? Do you know what I mean?
That's probably a question for a therapist. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Are you just burying your head in the sand and not like, I don't know. But no, I do get what you mean. It could be testament to, again, it's a weird way to word it, but testament to the things that you've been through and the way that you've dealt with it. But again, like with the recovery for me, it was, now when I talk about it, the reason that I'm able to talk about it so casually is because even when it was happening, it weren't a big deal. It was something that I had to go through and I could choose every single day. And that's why I'm big on this concept of choice now when I talk about this whole having no 0 days and all those different things that I talk about, because you do choose. I could have chose to stay in bed. I could have spent that week in critical care if I'd have not been doing everything within my power to sort myself out. I could have been, then when I got moved into the other wing where you've had a lot of the drains taken out and you've got a bit more freedom and mobility and stuff like that. There were people there was 4 beds on I don't know if it's called a wing or a ward, so I'll just keep saying both words. I don't know. Someone
correct us, please.
Somebody will correct me. And admittedly, they were a little bit older. One was like 50 something, one was in his 60s, and then the most responsive was actually in his 70s, and it was me at 30. How old was that? When was it? 3 years ago, nearly. So 31. And this 70-year-old bloke, the nurses would come round and they'd be like meds. It was like bang, straight down, food, eat it straight away, drink this, do like literally everything. Can I stand up? Yeah, sick, stand up, sit down. Literally like doing box squats in my fucking chair. But then when they were trying to get other people to do it, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm talking bad about those people because they'd just been through open heart surgery, but they were laid in bed, no. don't talk to me, headphones on, TV.
Just sad.
And I get it, it was tough. There was no, for me anyway, and nobody was ever complaining about pain because you're that cracked up on fucking liquid morphine, Oromorphin, gabapentin and all these other drugs.
You weren't here, to be honest.
Mad. I was definitely mentally present, but physically, there's no real pain or anything. So again, for me, and I can only talk about my own experience there was no physical pain, so yes, I had to be careful. I couldn't put any weight through my hands. I had to do, right, I realised that I'd never trained core when I had to try and get out of bed without using my arms. It's fucking horrible. But I was doing everything that I could. And there were people, again, I don't know their situation, so I'm not talking bad about those people. That weren't.
Yeah.
That weren't. And there's a reason that I got onto the wing ward after them and left before them. Yes, my age helped, but it wasn't just that.
No.
For me, I think a rock bottom moment can help. What I would say is don't wait for it, though.
I was just about to say that, don't wait for it.
Because when I hit my rock bottom moments, what I found, and you've not had yours yet.
I mean, I have had it, but not had it at the same time.
But it's harder to then start doing something about it from such a negative place.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a self-worth thing, which mine was about the weight loss. It was, am I even worth putting in the effort? You've first got to convince yourself. People talk about self-belief, it's fucking bullshit, right? But you've then got to convince yourself that it's actually worth putting the effort in the first place. So it's harder to do something for yourself if you don't really like yourself at the time.
Yeah.
So what I would say, if you haven't had one, anybody that's watching, don't wait for it. Does it help? Some people.
Just do it.
But some people hit that rock bottom moment and never come back because their excuses are gone and they still don't want to take responsibility. And I see that a lot.
And then they don't want the help either. I mean, no, they'll say they want the help, but they won't actually account for the help and won't work with it or get the right guidance. And that's something that comes up quite a lot, and that feeds back into frustration as a coach, friend, family member, whatever, when someone doesn't, they're just not. You want to get them in a bag and you want to shake them. Literally just shake the shit out of them and be like, fucking wake up and realise where you're at. Wake up, realise, sort yourself out. Obviously, you can't be that direct to some people because that's quite brutal at times, but it's one of them things, you need to have that holy, when we was at Paul's thing, you have to have that holy shit moment.
That's why coaching is so important, though, and maybe there'll be people listening to this that call themselves a coach, right? Coaching is asking questions, like I've said. That's not me sitting here saying that as an opinion. That's me sitting here as a fully accredited by the International Authority of Professional Coaching and Mentoring coach. That's telling you this, okay? Coaching is asking questions. If you're telling somebody what you think, you're giving an opinion. If you're telling somebody what to do, you're instructing. You're not coaching.
You're not coaching.
For people to have that realisation, it requires a new stimulus for them to have their own realisation. You telling them what to do, it's going to go in one out of there and other the other, out of the other. Fucking I'll mess that up. In one ear and out of the other because they don't want to hear it. It's only when they have the thought themselves that they'll have the realisation. And I've coached you through a few things where I knew what you needed to know. I knew what you needed to hear and I knew what the right answer was, but
you have to pull
if
it out
I'd have
yourself.
told it you wouldn't have listened. Yeah. So I sat there and I talk about it all the time, and people think I'm I got called a sicko the other day on one of the in a good way.
Nice way.
In a good way, because I see it as quite literally like human chess. I'm like, I know what realization is there that I know. I think I know the realization that you need to have to create the catalyst for you to do something different, but I can't tell you that. So now I need to think. How can I get you there by asking the right questions? And quite literally, I'm playing human chess. I'm like, I know where we need to get to. I know the topic we need to get to. So what question can I ask to lead you to that, to lead you to that, to lead you to that?
Yeah.
And that's why I remember one of the ones that where we were talking through I would imagine a former client now. I saw it. I saw it happen. I got the right question and you were like, it's me. I was like, no, not in a bad way, but again, like if I'd have said, you need to do this, you need to do that,
It doesn't happen
it
ever.
wouldn't have landed.
Well, it's like Cal. Standard. Maria will know. We have our meltdowns every so often. And it's like, you'll have a conversation and they'll tell you something and it's like, yeah, I'll do that. It never happens because it's being told to, yeah. And it's like, I think everyone will be the same. Like, it's hard to coach, for example, say, for example, me to coach Cal because he's not going to listen to me. Because he's not going to ask the right questions because he's too emotionally attached.
Yeah.
And that's where coaching comes in really handy because you have obviously got an emotional connection with your client because you have to, because you have to know the client to push them questions in the right way.
Yeah.
But that's that is the beauty of coaching because you can ask them hard questions without, you do, it's not feeling bad, but like, you know it's going to benefit them in a right way.
I think that's, me and Paul were speaking about this it was on my podcast recently. That's the first thing that a coach needs to be able to do, is sit there, ask a fucking brutal question that you know is going to land maybe not great, and then shut the fuck up. Don't try and soften the space. Don't try and fluff it up.
Just say it as it is.
Ask the question and sit there. And I know when Paul's got me with something, we were talking about it, and again, he says it on the podcast, and not say anything. Literally not say anything. And Paul will do this. He'll do this little thing, and I'm like, I'm not getting out of this. Like, but you're right. Like anybody, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying people that call themselves coaches. If you're giving somebody a plan to follow and following the plan and it's having a positive impact and they're changing their life and losing the weight and improving their health or whatever they want to do, sick, genuinely, that's needed. That's very much needed in the world. But you're not coaching people unless you're able to sit there and drill them with the hard questions and not beat around the bush and be okay with the fact that they might not like you for it at the time, but if you want to be able to say, hand on heart, and this is a message that I preach all the time, that you are doing everything you can for your client, you're doing right by your client, it's not about if you're too soft to have the hard conversations anymore.
No.
You need to be able to sit there and ask the question. Don't sit there and dictate, because that's not positive for anybody. But you need to be able to actually coach your clients.
And I think as well, you've got to have that, you've got to be able to deal with that uncomfortableness. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to deal with that uncomfortableness. And it's like, yeah, it's hard having them uncomfortable conversations. Like, I'm not going to lie, it still shits me up now having them uncomfortable conversations, because it's like, this could go one or two ways. Yeah. And the ones who take it well, flip, like absolute flip of the switch. The ones who don't take it well fall into that victim again. And it's like, that's not what we're here to do.
Sometimes, and it is, I've had people, I've got two sprung to mind that this happened with. You have to be okay with that. Like, again, if you can genuinely say as a coach, I've done everything that I could. Sometimes people sign up for coaching because they think they want the help, they think they're ready. Not everybody's going to sign up when they're ready. Some people will sign up before and they'll have that realization while they're with you. Some people will sign up because they think they need to, but they don't really want to, but they think they need to, or they've had some sort of...
It could be like that plaster over their actual issue.
I had one client in particular that really, really needed to sort his health out. Is like majorly overweight, pre-diabetic, young son, really needed to sort it out. So he signed up for coaching and it just never really went anywhere. And this was after I'd done all the qualifications. This is not me just saying, go away and do this and do that. We sat on multiple coaching calls. He was in tears multiple times. Sometimes you have to be okay with accepting that it's not you. It's just not the right time for that person.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just not the right time. If you are not actually coaching your clients and you're telling them what to do and they're not doing it, and then so you're telling them in a slightly different way and then they're still not doing it, and then you're raising your voice a little bit and they're still not doing it, then you're not doing everything that you can for your client.
No.
Then some of the blame, not all of it, some of the blame is then on you as a coach.
Yeah.
But if you're genuinely sitting there and doing everything you can and like working with the client, not everyone's going to implement, and not everyone wants those fucking holy shit moments. This client in particular, I nearly said his name then, this client in particular had several Paul calls them the holy shit moments. I call it the oh fuck moment, where it's like, oh fuck, that's the thing. That's the thing. Whether they go away and do something with that is like we said about the victim thing. You can have all these moments you want, but if your actions and choices don't start to align with it, guess what? We're going to be having the same conversation next week.
I think the main thing to take away from all this is just like actually align, like genuinely, truly align with what you want to do. Don't do half shit. Like just fully, like if you want it, be fully committed to it. Like you was with your recovery, like you was fully committed to being better within a fraction of the time to what you needed to be. And I think that's what makes people genuinely unstoppable. Like having that thing of like, right, okay, let's just fucking go. Like, let's just go, let's do it. Coming over them obstacles and adversity and like what you have, what I have, I think there's nothing more empowering and strong on that. Like any sort of closing thing that you'd recommend that anyone could do to kind of push through that for themselves and just actually take the action other than just do it.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. Nobody's ever lived that's not died yet.
Well, yeah, true.
Right? You're gonna die at some point. So you have these choices, and if you are genuinely uncomfortable, you can do something about it, or you can continue to waste the very short time that we've got feeling like you do now by choice. By choice.
No, I agree.
So
Firm believer.
That for me is, there's this saying, it's a Latin thing, I think it's memento mori, which I think it means remember you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Me and Julian spoke about it. Again, I think it was either on his podcast or mine, I can't remember. I've got like a little pendant thing with it on. I really wanted to, typical cliche thing, I wanted to get it tattooed, but I can't anymore because I can't get any more tattoos because of the heart thing, which is the worst thing about it, genuinely, is that I can't get any more tattoos. But it's a reminder that, look, you're gonna die, and if you don't like the situation that you're in, do something about it. You don't like the job you're in, fucking quit. You don't like the relationship you're in, leave. Like, you don't like where you're living. I know it's easier said than done in some cases. But
make a plan of action to get out of that.
Do something different. Just do something different. And if you do that thing differently for long enough and it doesn't work, do something else different. And literally, like, it's this ongoing thing of just behaving, realizing that everything you do is a choice, assessing your choices. Is it taking you closer to who you want to be or further away? If it's taking you further away, then probably do something different. Don't keep doing that. Then change some. And it's just trial and error. We're all fucking winging it, mate. Yeah.
Literally just winging life. And yeah, there's not, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Just fucking do it. Just genuinely just fucking do it. Like, just go for it. If it scares you, do it even more.
And if I do like that. That's why I got into public speaking, is I was terrified of it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Like, don't complain about it, because then you're not doing it, so you're not progressing in one area, and you're also choosing to be negative by complaining about it. Like, take your pick. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I agree with all of that. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
I really enjoyed that.
Like
People are definitely going to think I'm a crackhead, aren't they?
Yeah. No, they're not. They're going to think you're great. Thanks for coming on. If you've got any questions about this podcast, drop me or Lewis a message on Instagram. Mine is at Leah at High Life Coaching. And Lewis?
I was going to see if you remembered it then. Lewis Potts Official.
Gone official?
It's just because somebody's got Lewis Potts and he's active, he's like a photographer and his photos are sick, and I'm like, you bastard.
We're official though, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And if you've not already, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.